Hello students, today we will discuss the oxidation and reduction concept of this chapter, that is chemical reactions and equations, and after that we will discuss corrosion and rancidity of the food. So first of all we will discuss oxidation and reduction. Now what is oxidation? It is clear from its name, that is oxy-addition. It is addition of oxygen. Right? So the process which involves addition of oxygen, you have to write complete sentence that the process which involves addition of oxygen is known as oxidation. Right? For example, carbon plus oxygen, this gives carbon dioxide. So here is addition of oxygen to carbon. So there is oxidation of carbon. So this is the oxidation process, right? Now, if we heat copper, right? If we heat copper in the presence of oxygen, right? That forms copper oxide, right? So the black color copper oxide is formed. This will be of black color, and this is of brown color. This copper, pure copper. So after heating in the presence of air or oxygen, it becomes copper oxide. That is, there is addition of oxygen. So this is also oxidation process. Now if I pass hydrogen gas over copper oxide at high temperature, hydrogen gas, right? So this oxygen will be removed from copper and it can react with water and with hydrogen to form water, right? So this copper which was of brown color is reproduced back. It's reproduced back. This is brown color copper and this its color was black, right? Now you can see here that here is the removal of oxygen from copper. So this process is known as reduction. So here you can write reduction. So removal of oxygen is known as reduction. And addition of oxygen is known as oxidation. This is also oxidation. You can write above this arrow also, because we have space now on this arrow. Right? So what is the definition of reduction? The process which involves removal of oxygen, that is known as reduction. Removal of oxygen is known as reduction. Now there are other definitions of oxidation and reduction. That oxidation, it also involves removal of hydrogen. That is process which involves removal of hydrogen is also known as oxidation. And reduction, this also involves the other step, that addition of hydrogen. Addition of hydrogen is also known as reduction. So oxidation process is just reverse of the reduction process. That is, oxidation is addition of oxygen and reduction is removal of oxygen. Or we can say oxidation is removal of hydrogen, or we can say it is that reduction is addition of hydrogen, right? So if I write another reaction, that reaction of hydrogen with oxygen. So here water is formed, this reaction is not balanced, you can balance it. So here oxygen get added to hydrogen. So here is the oxidation of hydrogen. So oxidation of hydrogen takes place. Or you can say that to oxygen, hydrogen get added. So here is reduction of oxygen. Here is reduction of oxygen, right? that this get added to this, then is known as reduction. If this get added to this, then this is known as oxidation. Right? If you want to balance it, you can balance it like this. You can balance it. Right? Now it is now balanced. And so in every reaction which involves oxidation, then there will be reduction also. So that reaction is known as reduction oxidation reaction or simply redox reaction. Reduction oxidation reaction or redox reaction. So redox reaction is what? Write down definition. Redox reaction, the reaction which involves both reduction and oxidation is known as redox reaction. So in any reaction, if there is reduction, then there will be oxidation also. If in any reaction there is oxidation, then there will be reduction also. There cannot be that only oxidation will be there. It cannot be that only will be reduction. Both will together takes place. That is reduction, oxidation in the reaction together take place. So this is about oxygen reduction. We can take more example, right? Like that are given in your book. Zinc oxide, when it is reacted with carbon, then it forms zinc and carbon monoxide, right? Zinc and carbon monoxide. So you can write another reaction, that is MnO2 plus HCl, and then this will give MnCl2, and then H2 is formed, and then chlorine is formed, right? Cl2. Now in this reaction, how will you say that which get oxidized and which get reduced, right? So zinc oxide, here we are removing oxygen from the zinc. So here you can say zinc oxide undergo reduction, that it get reduced, that zinc oxide get reduced. We can say in this way also. Now here you can see this and this, that carbon is getting oxygen, right? So if carbon is getting oxygen, so we can say carbon is getting oxidized, or we can say there is oxidation of carbon. Right? Now in this reaction, you can see that oxygen has been removed. If you see this and this, oxygen has been removed. Right? So here is reduction. That is MnO2 get reduced. Right? Now if you see this and this, you can see here that hydrogen has been removed. So there is removal of hydrogen. Right? So you can say that HCl get oxidized, that is there is oxidation of HCl. So this is about oxidation reduction process, that is reactions. Now we'll discuss corrosion. Now what is corrosion? Corrosion is decay of metal. It happens with the metal, that it is decay of metal due to attack of atmospheric gases, like oxygen, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and water vapors are also present in air. So you can write H2O also, etc. For example, rusting of iron. Rusting of iron. Right? Rusting of iron, the formula of rusting of iron is Fe3O4. So you can see that iron get oxidized and then it forms Fe3O4. And there are other examples, that is tarnishing of silver. Tarnishing of silver. On the surface of silver there is black or you can say grey color deposition is there, and that is known as tarnishing of silver. Now there is another example like green deposition on the copper, that is also the example of corrosion. Green deposition, that is a green color layer gets deposited on the copper, that is known as corrosion of copper. Green deposition on copper. Right? So this is about corrosion, and we have discussed rusting of iron, and this is the major example, that rusting of iron. And due to rusting of iron, we are wasting lots of money, because the rusted products are required need to be replaced, that the dams and cars and other machineries they have to replace, and we have to spend lots of money in replacing the rusted iron products with the new one. So this is the disadvantage of rusting or corrosion. Now next we will discuss rancidity of forge. What is rancidity of forge? Right? Rancidity of forge. So what do you mean by rancidity of forge? So if our food is oily or fatty, that it contains fat, or you can say we have fried food, and in that fried food, if it is kept for a long time, then fat or oil in that food, it gets oxidized by air, and then that oxidized fat or oil in the food, it has bad taste and bad odor. This is known as rancidity of food. So rancidity of food means that the oxidation of fat or oil present in the food is known as rancidity of the food. Is known as rancidity of the food. And the food in which oil or fat get oxidized, that is known as rancid food. The food in which oil or fat get oxidized, that is known as rancid food. And rancid foods have bad taste and odor, that is bad odor, right? That is bad smell. So to avoid rancidity of food, some antioxidants are used in food. What are antioxidants? Which prevents oxidation of fat and oil in the food, that are known as antioxidants. Right? Now in chips packets, you have seen that some air is filled in chips packet, and that is not air, that is nitrogen. So in chips packet, nitrogen is filled so that the food inside the chips packet, that is the chips inside the chips packet, it will not get oxidized due to the presence of air or oxygen in that packet. So if nitrogen is there, nitrogen will not cause oxidation, because oxidation can be caused by oxygen. So if oxygen is not there, so the chips will not get oxidized and there will be no rancidity of the chips. So that's why the chips packets are filled with nitrogen gas. So this is about rancidity, and with this chapter is over. Now we will discuss next chapter in the next video. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.